The ceremony begins. The stars above the alien city shimmered like thousands of tiny fires. It was a night of celebration. Flags of glowing fabric floated in the air, music echoed across the stone towers, and tall alien guards stood silent, in golden armor. Deep inside the main chamber of the Thalkai Palace, Lieutenant Jason Reed adjusted his collar and took a deep breath. He had never been this nervous in his life. Just a formality, the human ambassador had said. Shake some hands, repeat the words they give you, smile for the cameras, and you're done. But now, standing inside a massive hall carved from crystal and bone, Jason wasn't so sure. The air smelled of spice and lightning. Strange symbols floated in the air above him, glowing blue and shifting shape. Thousands of alien eyes were watching him, some curious, some cautious, and some almost fearful. A soft hum filled the chamber. Jason turned to see the elder priest of the Thalkai step forward. He was tall, with forearms and skin that shimmered like molten stone. In one hand, he held a long staff made of black wood. The top of the staff burned with a silent flame. "Human Jason," the elder said, his voice like rolling thunder, "you have come to our home on the night of the choosing. You have walked the sacred path. You have touched the 3 stones. Are you ready for the final vow?" Jason blinked. "Yes. I think so." A few aliens in the crowd exchanged looks. Jason couldn't tell if they were amused or offended. The elder continued, "Then kneel before the flame and speak the words given to you." Jason stepped forward, heart pounding. He knelt on a smooth stone floor and faced the flame. From the corner of his eye, he noticed a figure watching from the shadows. Tall, cloaked in silver fabric, and wearing a mask shaped like a hawk's face. Her presence made the hair on his neck rise. Something about her felt powerful and important. A soft voice echoed in Jason's earpiece. It was the translator. "Repeat. I offer my strength, my honor, and my name to the bond of unity." Jason repeated the words slowly. "I offer my strength, my honor, and my name to the bond of unity." As he finished, the flame flared bright white. The chamber shook slightly, then silence. The elder raised the staff. "It is done. The human has taken the vow. The stars have accepted." A low chant began. The aliens around him touched their foreheads and bowed. Jason stood up, confused but trying not to show it. "That's it?" he whispered to himself. "That was the whole thing." The elder smiled. "You may rise, chosen one." Jason paused. "Chosen?" The elder simply nodded and stepped aside. As Jason walked back toward the hallway, a guard blocked his path. "You must come this way." "But the ceremony's over, right?" Jason asked. The guard didn't answer. He led Jason through a long tunnel lit by blue flames. They walked in silence for minutes deeper into the palace. Finally, the guard opened a door. Inside was a small, round room. It was empty, except for the silver-cloaked figure who now removed her mask. Jason's breath caught. She was alien. Yes, but beautiful in a way that made his chest feel tight. Her skin was smooth and glowing with pale patterns that shifted with her breathing. Her eyes were large and violet, filled with strength and sadness. "You are Shala?" he guessed, remembering the name from the ambassador's file. "I am," she said. Her voice was cold and sharp. "Okay." Jason nodded slowly. "So, what happens now?" Shala stepped closer. "You spoke the vow." "Yeah. I thought it was part of the peace deal." "It was," she said. "But it was also marriage." Jason froze. "Wait, what?" Shala turned away. "The vow you spoke is sacred. It is only said by those who offer their life bond. You are now my consort." "Consort?" Jason stepped back. "You mean, like a husband?" She nodded once. "But no one told me." Shala looked at him, her expression unreadable. I did not choose you either, human. The stars chose. We obey. He stared at her, trying to understand. This couldn't be real. He was supposed to attend a ceremony and go home, not get married to an alien princess. Before he could ask anything else, the door behind him closed. Metal locks clicked. Jason was now alone with his new wife. Shala crossed her arms. Sleep on the left side, and do not touch the flamestone. It bites. She lay down on the floor cushion and turned her back to him. Jason just stood there, speechless. The ceremony was over, but his new life had just begun. The bonding ritual. The night was quiet inside the Thalkai palace, but Jason couldn't sleep. He lay awake on the cushion given to him, staring at the golden ceiling, trying to understand what had just happened. Just hours ago, he was a human officer sent to build peaceful relations. Now he was being called a consort, a husband, without warning, without a choice. Beside him, Shala lay silent, her back turned to him, her breathing steady but distant. She hadn't said a word since she told him not to touch the flamestone. Jason stared at the orange crystal that glowed gently in the corner of the room. It pulsed like a heartbeat, warm and strange. He was too afraid to go near it now. He wanted answers, and he knew he wouldn't get any just lying there. So quietly, carefully, Jason stood up. He moved toward the carved wooden door. It was still locked. A shimmering blue force field pulsed through the frame, humming softly. He touched the edge, and it zapped his finger with a sharp jolt. Locked. He was stuck inside. Suddenly, Shala's voice broke the silence. "Are you trying to escape?" she asked without turning her head. Jason hesitated. "No. I wanted some air." "You are not allowed to leave during the first cycle," she said flatly. "It would break the bonding ritual." "The what now?" Jason stepped back from the door. Shala finally sat up, her long silver hair falling over her shoulders. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "You don't know anything about our ways, do you?" "I know I didn't sign up to get married to a stranger," Jason said, trying to stay calm. "Nobody explained the rules. They told me it was just a cultural event." "It is more than that," she said coldly. "The bonding ritual is sacred. It ties two souls into one path. Breaking it brings war, shame, and death." "Death?" Jason blinked. "Is that a tradition too?" Shala stood, her presence tall and commanding. "Yes, but it's not just tradition. It is truth. When a chosen bonding is rejected, it is seen as a sign of betrayal, not just to the partner, but to the entire race." Jason rubbed his face. "Okay, so let me get this straight. Because I said a few words during a ceremony. Words I didn't even understand. I'm now married to you, and leaving means starting a war?" "Correct. And staying means..." "What exactly?" Shala's expression softened. "Just slightly. It means you will have a place among my people. You will earn respect, protection, and maybe in time, understanding." He sighed. "So how do we even bond? Is there some kind of ritual or test?" Shala looked at him carefully. "There is. It begins tomorrow. The first trial is the sharing of minds." The next morning, Jason stood shirtless inside a sacred chamber deep within the palace. The room was circular, filled with symbols carved into black stone. Glowing threads of energy swirled in the air. In the center stood a large silver basin filled with a clear liquid. Shala stepped forward in full ceremonial armor. Her mask was off and her face calm but unreadable. "You must place your hand in the basin," she said. "The water holds memories. It will show me yours, and you will see mine." "Will it hurt?" "Yes," she said, without hesitation, "but only if you resist." Jason took a deep breath and plunged his hand in. The water turned red instantly. Heat surged through his arm, into his chest, then into his head. He gasped. Visions exploded before his eyes. He was a child again, standing, in a field on Earth. His mother's voice called to him, then a war zone. Bullets flying, smoke, friends dying, fear, loneliness, pain, then love, a girl named Emma, laughter under a rainstorm, betrayal, heartbreak, then training, joining the Peace Corps, standing, tall among stars. Suddenly the visions changed. He saw Shala, not as she was now but younger, a fierce girl holding a sword almost too big for her, her father teaching her to fight, a war, her people dying, her crying over a burned village, a first marriage, a wedding feast, then blood. Her husband gone, her heart shattered, the visions faded. Both of them stumbled back. Shala was breathing hard. Jason collapsed to his knees. She looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. You were a boy who lost everything, she whispered. And you carry more pain than I ever imagined, he said. Shala walked to him, slowly, and extended her hand. Jason hesitated, then took it. The bonding had truly begun. That night, Jason sat with her in their private quarters. For the first time, they shared a meal together. It was simple food, sweet fruits, baked roots, and a purple drink that tasted like mint and honey. Why did your people do this? Jason asked. Why force a bond with someone from Earth? Shala looked up at the ceiling. Because we are dying. Our species can no longer survive on our own. Our lifelines are thinning. We believe the future lies with those strong enough to share pain. Your kind, humans, have endured more pain than most. The stars told our elders that the bond would begin with someone who carries deep scars, someone who still dares to hope. Jason was quiet. You think that's me? I think the stars don't lie. A knock echoed at the door. A messenger entered and bowed. Your Grace, he said to Shala, the council requests your presence. There has been a challenge to the bond. Shala stood, eyes narrowing. From who? From General Rockthar. Shala's jaw clenched. He has always hated humans. Jason stood too. What does that mean? What challenge? He is demanding the test of blades, she said grimly. He believes you are unworthy, and if you fail, he may demand blood. Jason's stomach turned. I'm not a warrior. Shala turned to him slowly. Then become one, the wife who hated him. The sun of Thalkai rose with a blood-orange hue, casting sharp shadows across the towering palace walls. Drums echoed in the distance, slow and steady, announcing a trial of honor. Lieutenant Jason Reed stood inside the arena armory, dressed in a simple battle tunic. Sweat dripped from his brow even though the air was cool. This was not what he signed up for. He looked down at the sword in his hand, long, heavy, and unlike anything he had ever trained with. Back on Earth, Jason had learned basic self-defense. But here, he was expected to fight one of the most feared alien warriors alive, to prove his worthiness as a consort, or die trying. The challenge had come from General Rockthar, a war hero, with scars across his face and hatred in his eyes. He claimed Jason was too weak, too human, too soft to be bonded to a warrior like Shala. He demanded Jason submit to the blade or forfeit the alliance. Both options led to humiliation, or death. And Shala? She hadn't said a single word to him since the council announced the duel. She stood outside the armory now, silent, arms crossed, face cold as ice. He had tried to catch her eye, to say something, anything, but she looked through him like he was a stranger. He couldn't understand her. They had shared memories, pain, fear, even tears. Yet she had pulled away again. Just when he thought they were starting to trust each other, the door creaked open. A royal guard stepped in. It is time, he said, voice like stone. Jason followed him into the arena. The arena was shaped like a ring, surrounded by thousands of stone seats. Every noble of Thalkai was present, elders, warriors, scholars. Above them floated a glass balcony where the queen herself sat, watching in silence. Shala stood to one side, expression unreadable. Across the ring stood General Rockthar, 7 feet tall, eyes like burning coals, a chest like a tank. He wore a blood-red battle harness and held a blade curved like a scorpion's sting. "The human comes to face me?" Rockthar growled, voice echoing. "The stars must be mocking us." Jason didn't answer. His throat was too dry, a voice announced from above. "The trial of blades shall begin. No weapons but the sword, no interference, no mercy." Rockthar charged first. His blade came down with terrifying speed. Jason dodged, barely keeping his balance. He remembered his training. Angles, footwork, breathe. But Rockthar was a beast. Every strike felt like it could break stone. The crowd roared. Jason kept moving, ducking, rolling, trying not to die. He didn't attack. Not yet. He couldn't match Rockthar's strength. Then he remembered something from Earth. A tactic. A story. Use your enemy's weight against them. He waited. Rockthar swung high. Jason sidestepped and twisted. Rockthar stumbled. Jason swung low, cutting the back of his leg. The crowd gasped. Rockthar roared and spun, furious. Jason was hit across the shoulder. Pain exploded down his arm, but he stayed standing. He circled again. Rockthar charged blindly now, enraged. Jason dropped low, rolled under him and jabbed the sword into the side of his armor. Sparks flew. Not deep, but enough to draw blood. Rockthar fell to one knee. And it! Someone shouted from the crowd. Jason walked forward, sword shaking in his hands. He stood over the general, blade ready, but he didn't strike. "I'm not here to kill you," Jason said loudly, so all could hear. "I didn't come to this planet to fight your people. I came to protect the bond. To protect Shala." He turned to her. Her face finally changed. She looked at him. Not like a stranger, but like someone remembering something she tried to forget. The queen rose from her seat. "The human has passed the trial," she declared. Through strength and through mercy. The crowd bowed their heads. Jason dropped the sword. His knees gave out. He had survived. Hours later, he sat alone in the healing chamber, his shoulder wrapped in glowing cloth. The pain dulled now. Shala entered quietly. He looked up. "Are you here to yell at me again?" She sat beside him. "You should not have won," she said. He smiled weakly. "Thank you. But you did, not just by fighting, but by choosing not to kill him." "I didn't want more blood, I only wanted respect." Shala looked at him for a long time. "Do you know why I hated you?" Jason's smile faded. "I have a few guesses." "You reminded me of him," she said. "Your first husband?" She nodded. "He was brave, kind, but soft. He didn't understand this world and it killed him." Jason leaned back. "I'm sorry. When the bond was made between us," she continued, "I thought the stars were punishing me, giving me another soft man, another death waiting to happen. And now," Shala stood slowly, "now I think, maybe the stars gave me a man who knows how to survive." She turned to leave, then paused. "Sleep near the flame tonight," she said quietly. "It won't bite anymore." Then she was gone. That night, Jason lay on the floor near the flamestone. It pulsed gently beside him, warm and calm. For the first time since he arrived on Thalakai, he slept peacefully, until he heard something, a whisper, a warning. "They're coming for you," a voice said in his mind. "The bond is not safe. She is not safe." He opened his eyes. The flamestone was glowing white. Shala was sitting at the edge of the room, sword in hand. "You heard it too?" he asked. She nodded. "Someone is inside the palace. Someone who wants to end the bond by ending us." Jason stood, heart racing. The blade trial was just the beginning. Something darker had begun. And now, they would face it together. The enemy within. The halls of the Thalkai Palace were darker than usual, as if the glowing crystals that lit the corridors had dimmed in warning. A quiet wind passed through the long passageways, but there were no windows open. It was the kind of silence that made people feel watched, like something was crawling behind the walls, hiding, waiting. Jason Reed stood just inside the bonding chamber, gripping the edge of the stone table. Beside him, Shala moved silently, her sword drawn, eyes scanning every shadow. "How many entrances?" Jason whispered. "3, she answered calmly. "The door we used, the fire vent near the ceiling, and a secret crawl passage the servants use for cleaning." He looked at her. "You knew someone was coming?" Shala's jaw tightened. "I suspected for days. Now I'm sure." "Before?" He could ask more. A sharp clang echoed from above. Both turned instantly. The vent cover had been removed. Something was climbing down. Without hesitation, Shala flung her blade. It spun through the air and hit the wall just as a figure dropped from the ceiling. Dark robes, light armor, and glowing red eyes. The assassin twisted midair, avoided the blade, and landed like a cat. Jason backed away slowly. He wasn't armed. No armor, no helmet, just cloth and bare hands. Shala stood between him and the attacker. "Show your face, coward." The assassin pulled back their hood. Jason gasped. It was a woman, Thalkai, but younger. Her face was marked with the tattoo of the Crimson Path, a rogue warrior faction known for rejecting unity with any outside species. "You brought a human into our bloodline," she hissed. "You defiled the sacred vow." "He is my bond," Shala growled, "and if you try to touch him, I'll end your life where you stand." The assassin lunged. Shala met her blade for blade, their swords clashing with sparks. The room filled with the sound of steel and lightning-fast movements. Jason moved along the wall, watching for something, anything he could use. The assassin was fast, maybe even faster than Shala, but Shala was focused, precise. Her eyes burned with purpose. Every strike she made was to protect, not to prove herself. The fight turned brutal. The assassin slammed Shala into the wall. Her blade fell from her hand. Jason saw it. Without thinking, he grabbed a burning torch from the wall and charged. He had never fought with fire before, but he knew heat, knew pain, knew survival. He slammed the torch into the assassin's back. She screamed and spun. Shala swept her leg under her and knocked her down. Then, with a swift motion, she grabbed her own blade again and placed it at the assassin's throat. "Who sent you?" Shala demanded. The woman laughed. "You already know." "Rockthar?" Jason asked. "No," Shala said slowly. "This is bigger." The assassin grinned through the blood on her lips. "The old ways rise again, and when they do, your bond will burn." Shala knocked her out with the hilt of her sword. The Queen's court was quiet when Jason and Shala entered with the unconscious assassin in chains. The nobles whispered among themselves. The guards looked uneasy. The Queen rose from her seat. "You bring a traitor to our hall?" Shala stepped forward. "This assassin tried to kill my bondmate. She is marked with the Crimson Path." The nobles gasped. Some stood, others backed away. "I demand an investigation," Shala said. "The attack came from inside the palace. Someone allowed this." The Queen's face was unreadable. "You make a bold claim." Jason spoke up. "We have proof." Her own mouth said it. "And Shala saved both our lives." The Queen raised a hand. "Enough. The council shall speak. Leave the prisoner in the shadow cells. And Shala, you will be watched." Shala narrowed her eyes. "You don't believe me." "I believe in balance," the Queen said, "and your bond has caused imbalance." As they left the court, Shala whispered, "We're on our own now." Later that night, Jason and Shala walked along the palace gardens. Strange trees with glowing leaves shimmered under the stars. "This isn't just about our bond, is it?" Jason asked. "No," Shala said softly. "This is about power. Our bond is being used as a weapon by those who want to destroy any hope of peace." "Why now?" Shala stopped. "Because they fear what the stars have told. They fear change." Jason turned to her. "Do you believe the stars chose us?" Shala didn't answer right away. Then she nodded. "I didn't at first, but now, I think the stars knew we would suffer before we healed, that we would fight before we loved. Jason looked at her. Is that what this is? Love? She looked into his eyes. Not yet, but it's closer than it was yesterday. They stood there in silence, breathing the cool alien air. Suddenly, a servant came running through the path. My lady, he cried. You must come. It's about the assassin. Shala and Jason ran after him. They reached the shadow cells only to find the door broken open, the guards dead, and the assassin gone. Written in blood on the wall were 4 alien words. Shala, read them aloud. The bond must die. Jason felt his chest tighten. We have a traitor inside the palace, maybe more than one. Shala drew her sword again. Then we find them. For the next 3 days, Jason and Shala worked in secret. They followed signs, questioned low-ranking soldiers, and searched the archives. Every clue led to dead ends or worse, disappearances. Finally, they found something hidden in the Temple of Stars. A scroll written in ancient Thalkai, forgotten by most. It spoke of a prophecy. A warrior of 2 worlds will rise. Jason read aloud. One born of pain, one forged by loss. Their bond will light the path or burn it down. Shala whispered. They think we're that bond, and they're trying to destroy it before it can change the future. As they left the temple, they found the Queen's royal guard waiting outside. You are under arrest, the lead guard said. On what charge? Shala demanded. Conspiracy, treason, and endangering the future of Thalkai. Jason looked at her, stunned. They're setting us up. No, Shala said darkly. They're afraid we've already won. The storm trial. Chains around Jason's wrists were tight, cold, and far too real. He walked through the dark corridor of the Queen's prison, surrounded by royal guards in full armor. Beside him, Shala walked in silence, her own hands bound, her gaze focused straight ahead. Her eyes didn't blink. Her shoulders were stiff. But even in silence, she walked with power, like a storm waiting to break free. Neither of them spoke as they were led into the high chamber of judgment. The room was vast and circular, carved from blue crystal and surrounded by elders, nobles, and scholars. The Queen sat upon her throne at the far end, her face hidden behind a golden mask. Dozens of eyes watched Jason as if he were a threat. Not a guest, not a warrior who survived the blade, but a danger that needed to be erased. Shala of the Bloodblade, the Queen said in a voice that echoed through the chamber. You stand accused of treason against the throne, and Jason Reed of Earth, you are charged with corrupting the sacred bond. Jason stepped forward. I protected the bond. I fought for it. The Queen raised her hand. Silence. Your presence has brought fire to our roots. You are a question the old laws cannot answer, and that makes you dangerous. Shala's voice rang out clear. This is not justice, this is fear. Perhaps, the Queen replied, but even fear has its traditions, and our traditions offer one last chance. The chamber grew quiet. The Queen stood. You will face the storm trial. Gasps spread across the room. Shala's eyes widened. No one has passed the storm trial in decades. Then perhaps, the Queen said coldly, we shall finally have our answer. They were taken to the mountains that rose high above the Thalkai capital, barren peaks where wind howled day and night, and the air was thin and sharp. At the top stood an ancient structure built into the rock itself, shaped like a spiral tower split open by time. The storm trial was not a fight of blades. It was a test of the spirit, and Jason was beginning to understand just how deadly it could be. He stood at the edge of a narrow path that led into a tunnel of wind and light. The sky above was black with swirling clouds. Lightning cracked constantly. The air was filled with a strange buzzing as if the very ground trembled with power. A priest in long gray robes stepped forward. You must walk the path alone. The trial ends when you reach the summit, or when your mind breaks. Jason looked at Shala. She was standing back with the guards, unable to help him. Her eyes, though cold before, now held something else. Fear. What should I expect? Jason asked the priest. The priest smiled slightly. The storm shows you yourself, but not as you are, as you fear you might be. The moment Jason stepped into the storm path, everything changed. Wind screamed around him, pushing him back with every step. The path twisted, turned, and vanished into fog. Shadows danced on the stone. Voices began to whisper in his ear. First came the voice of his mother, crying out from childhood. "Why did you leave us, Jason?" Then the voice of his old captain during the war. "You froze in the firefight. People died because of you." Then a softer voice. Emma, the girl he once loved. "You never loved me. You just didn't want to be alone." Jason clutched his head, trying to block it out. "It's not true," he whispered. "It's not true." The wind pushed harder. A figure appeared in the storm. Himself, but not as he was. This version of Jason was broken, bitter, eyes filled with hate. "You think you belong here?" the shadow Jason asked. "You think she loves you? You're just a symbol, a distraction. She'll forget you once you're gone." Jason shook his head. "No, I've fought. I've bled. I've stood by her." The storm Jason laughed. "You're nothing but a warm body filling a prophecy." Then he vanished. And in his place stood Shala. But this Shala was twisted, cold, eyes black as night. "You think I care for you?" she hissed. "I needed a shield. You were easy to use." Jason dropped to his knees. He wanted to scream, but then, in the distance, he saw a faint light, flickering like a heartbeat. He stood. Step by step, he pushed forward. He remembered Shala's real eyes, the way she looked at him after the blade trial, the way she said, "Not yet love, but closer than yesterday." He held on to that. The wind screamed louder. Lightning struck the path behind him, but he didn't stop. He kept walking. One step, then another, and finally, he reached the summit. The storm faded. The wind died. Silence. He was standing above the clouds now, stars blinking through the sky, the twin moons of Thalkai glowing above him. He had made it. The storm trial was over. When Jason returned to the palace the next morning, the queen herself stood to greet him. He was bruised, tired, but standing tall. Shala rushed to his side the moment she saw him. She didn't say anything. She just looked at him with awe. The queen raised her hand. "The human has passed the storm trial. He is no longer just a consort. He is a protector of the bond." The council murmured. The queen continued. "But the storm has brought another truth. The crimson path grows. They will strike again. This time, not just at the bond, but at the throne." Shala turned to Jason. "Then we strike first." That night, Shala and Jason stood on the balcony of the tower. He looked at her, face lit by the moons. "I saw you in the storm," he said quietly. "But it wasn't really you." "I saw you too," Shala replied. "Alone, broken, but still standing." "We're stronger together," Jason said. Shala touched his hand. "We always were." She leaned closer, not to kiss him, but to whisper something into his ear. "The rebels are moving, and I know where they meet. Are you ready for war?" Jason looked out at the stars. "Let's finish this." A husband, a hero. The palace of Thalkai didn't sleep that night. Strange winds blew across its towers. Watchfires burned brighter. And in the war chambers deep beneath the throne room, Jason Reed stood beside Shala as they reviewed the secret map stolen from a rebel informant, one who had died whispering the words, "They are everywhere." The scroll showed locations, marked with red ink, supply routes, signal towers, and most important, a hidden rebel base near the Valley of Echoes. It was built inside an old fortress, abandoned for centuries, forgotten by most. But now it was alive again, filled with warriors loyal not to the queen, not to unity, but to the old blood. Shala slammed her fist against the table. "This is their nest. If we strike it now, we end their command before they rise. Or, we walk into a trap, Jason said. They'll expect us to come. Shala turned to him. Then let them expect. We'll still win. 2 days later, before the twin moons reached their peak, Shala and Jason rode together through the narrow canyon that led to the rebel stronghold. They moved in silence, cloaked in dark armor, their faces hidden. Behind them rode a small group of elite warriors, 5 in total, loyal, deadly, quiet as shadows. As they approached the fortress walls, Jason couldn't shake the feeling in his gut. Something was wrong. The air was too still. No guards, no movement, no noise. It's a ghost nest, he whispered. Shala nodded. Then the ghosts are waiting. The team dismounted. Weapons were drawn, plasma blades, short rifles, and pulse daggers. Jason carried a human-made shock cannon, powerful, loud, and unpredictable. They entered the fortress. Inside was dark, walls covered in old war symbols, dust, and blood. But no. Living soul, then, a whisper followed by a click, then another. Shala's eyes widened. Scatter, the floor exploded beneath them. Jason was thrown back, hit a wall hard, and rolled into a dark corridor. Smoke filled the air. Red emergency lights blinked from hidden devices. Alarms began to scream. It was a trap. He stood, coughed, and checked his weapon. Still working. Shala? He called out. No answer. His comms were dead. But in the distance he heard fighting, blades clashing, rifles firing. He ran toward the noise. Shala was surrounded by 4 rebel warriors in silver masks. Her sword moved like fire, each strike, full of rage and precision. She was hurt. Blood ran down her side, but she didn't slow. One enemy dropped. Then another. Jason burst in from the side and fired the shock cannon. The blast sent 2 rebels flying. Shala turned. Her eyes softened. For only a second. Took you long enough, she said. Got lost, he replied. They fought side by side. Just like before. Jason wasn't the best with blades, but he was smart. He used the room, kicked over tables, used broken shields as cover, and drew fire so Shala could strike. Finally, silence. The last rebel fell, but the damage was done. Only 2 of their team remained. We need to reach the command center, Shala said. It's below the vaults. Jason pointed to a staircase. Then let's go. They moved fast, down the stairs, through tunnels lit by red torches, past rooms filled with old weapons and rebel banners. At the bottom, they found a large steel door. Shala placed her hand on the scanner. It blinked. Nothing. It's locked, she said. Jason stepped forward. Let me try the human way. He planted a small explosive from his belt, just enough to break the seal. Back up. Boom. The door cracked open. Inside was the rebel command chamber. Maps, data screens, and at its center, a tall alien in black armor. Rockthar, alive, and waiting. Shala stepped forward, fury in her eyes. You were banished. Rockthar smiled. And yet I remain. Because the throne is weak. Because you let this human poison our bloodline. He turned to Jason. You should have died in the storm trial. But you survived. And now, you threaten everything. Jason raised his cannon. You should have picked a quieter place to hide. Rockthar laughed. I didn't hide. I invited you. This is where the bond ends. Suddenly the room shook. Explosives, hidden under the walls, had been triggered. The fortress was going to fall. Rockthar drew his blade. Let us see if the stars truly favor you. Shala charged first. The duel was brutal. Rockthar was strong, faster than Jason remembered. But Shala was fueled by something else now. Purpose. Jason circled, looking for an opening. Then he saw a power conduit on the wall, unstable, flickering. He aimed, fired. The shot hit the wall and exploded, sending sparks into Rockthar's face. Shala struck. Her blade went through his chest. He gasped, then collapsed. The base rumbled again. Shala grabbed Jason's arm. We have to go. Now. They ran, through flames. Falling stone. Collapsing walls. Just before the exit gave way, they jumped clear. The fortress exploded behind them. Fire lit the night sky, and in the silence that followed, Jason lay on his back, laughing. "We actually did it," he said. Shala leaned over him. "You're not just my bondmate anymore," she said softly. "You're my hero," he smiled. "Took you long enough to say it." She kissed his forehead. "Rest now. Tomorrow we return, and the stars will know. We never broke." Back at the capital, the queen stood on the palace steps as Jason and Shala arrived. She stepped forward and bowed slightly. "The rebellion is over," she said, "and the bond is held." She turned to the people. "This man, Jason Reed of Earth, is no longer an outsider. He is Thalkai in heart, in blood, and in name. From this day he shall be known as Calven, guardian of the bond." The crowd roared. Shala took his hand, and in that moment, Jason understood something simple. He had come here thinking it was just a job, a mission, but now he had a home, a wife, a people, and a destiny that had only just begun. The meaning of the vows. The capital city of Thalkai no longer echoed with drums of war but with songs of peace. Golden banners fluttered from the palace towers, and the skies were filled with gentle music played by wind harps. It had been 7 days since the rebellion was crushed, and Lieutenant Jason Reed, now known as Calvin, was no longer just a human visitor. He was a symbol, a bridge between two species, the living proof that the bond could survive not just tradition, but fire and blood. Yet peace was never simple. On the 8th night, under the soft glow of the twin moons, Jason stood in the palace's Hall of Stars, a quiet place where the air shimmered with memory. Holograms of past rulers floated in the corners, their voices faint whispers of history. He was dressed in ceremonial armor now, not for battle but for the final part of the ancient Thalkai bonding rite. Shala stood across from him, cloaked in silver and light. But her expression was not calm. She looked troubled. "You're not sure we should finish it," Jason said softly. Shala stepped forward, her eyes serious. "The final vow is more than words. It binds our minds forever. It shares not just thought, but emotion, instinct, even pain. And if we don't do it, the people will still honor us. The Queen has already declared the bond true, but deep down, it will remain incomplete, unfinished." Jason took a breath. "Do you want to complete it?" Shala looked into his eyes. "I want to know that what we built was more than fate, more than prophecy. I want to choose it, and be chosen." He nodded slowly. "Then let's finish what we started." The ceremony was held inside the crystal dome known as the Eye of the Stars. It was the most sacred place in the Empire where ancient Thalkai believed the first bond was ever formed, between the sky and the fire, the warrior and the dreamer. Only 2 were allowed inside. No guards, no queens, no witnesses. Just Jason and Shala. In the center of the chamber stood a stone pedestal with a living crystal inside it, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. It was called the Soul Prism. Those who touched it during the vow would be linked forever. Minds opened, thoughts shared, hearts exposed. "Once we begin," Shala said gently, "there is no going back. Every truth you hide, I will see it, every part of you." "Then I better not lie," Jason said with a small smile. She reached out. So did he. Their hands touched the prism. Light exploded. In a blink, they stood somewhere else. Not a real place. Not the palace. A space between. They were floating in a memory. Jason's memory. A small field on Earth filled with tall grass. Birds in the sky. He was a boy again, running with a wooden stick, pretending to be a knight. Shala watched quietly. "You dreamed of saving people," she whispered. "I always wanted to," Jason said. but I never felt strong enough. The scene shifted. Now they stood inside a bunker. Gunfire outside. Jason sat alone, holding the hand of a dying friend. Shala stepped forward, eyes wide. "You blamed yourself." He followed my order. "It was a mistake." Shala touched his shoulder. "You carry guilt like armor." "So do you." The world changed again. Now they stood in Shala's memory. A wedding hall full of fire and celebration. Shala, dressed in crimson, smiled at her first husband. A soft-spoken warrior named Kayan, then smoke, screams, Kayan falling. "He died protecting me," Shala said, voice shaking, "and I promised I'd never bond again." Jason looked at her, pained. "I'm not trying to replace him." "You didn't," she said. "You just made me feel again." They stood in silence. Then the final scene unfolded. A vision of their future. Shala, old and tired, resting in a sunlit garden. Jason beside her, gray-haired but still smiling. A young child ran past them, part human, part Thalkai. Shala stared. "Is that?" "I don't know," Jason said. "But it's what I hope for." She turned to him. "You do want a family?" "Only if it's with you." Shala took his hand, and in that moment the vow was sealed, not by force, not by tradition, but by truth, by choice. Back in the real world, the prism faded. The chamber grew quiet again. Jason and Shala stood together, hands still joined. "It's done," Shala whispered. Jason blinked. "I can feel you. I can feel your thoughts, your heartbeat, your fear and your hope. Does it scare you?" She smiled softly. "No, it makes me feel alive." They stepped out of the chamber together. The queen stood waiting. No words were needed. She simply bowed. So did the guards. So did the nobles. The bond was whole, and Alkai had changed forever. Weeks passed. A new era began. Human and Thalkai. Diplomats worked side by side. Technology was shared. Cultures blended. Schools were built. Even old enemies began to speak of peace. And Jason, he wasn't a visitor anymore. He trained new recruits, taught young warriors strategy from Earth, stood beside Shala in every council meeting, and every night, when the stars rose, they stood on the palace balcony, hand in hand. "Do you ever miss Earth?" Shala asked one evening. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But not the way I thought I would. Because home isn't where you're born, it's where you're needed." She leaned against him. "Then I'm glad the stars brought you here." He smiled. "Me too." And above them the stars continued to shine, not as judges, not as fate, but as witnesses to a bond that began as a misunderstanding and became a story for the ages.